Welcome back to Narcissism Freedom. This message is for the person who stayed silent when everything inside you wanted to scream. The person who walked away without defending themselves. The person who trusted that truth does not need to fight to survive. If that person is you, understand this clearly. God is exposing everything they did to you, and you didn't have to say a word. There is a moment in every survivor's journey when silence becomes sacred. Not because you had nothing to say, but because your spirit knew something your mind was still learning. You knew that truth carries its own voice. You knew that justice does not always arrive through confrontation. Sometimes, justice arrives through revelation. They thought your silence meant weakness. They thought your refusal to argue meant defeat. They mistook your peace for surrender. But what they did not understand was that your silence was protection. It was divine restraint. It was wisdom guiding you away from a battle that was never yours to fight. Narcissistic people rely on reaction. They need you to defend yourself because your defense gives them material to twist and weaponize. They survive on confusion. They build their illusion on your emotional responses. But when you stopped reacting, something powerful happened. You stepped outside of their illusion. You stepped into truth. And truth reveals. You may not have seen it immediately. There may have been moments when it looked like they were winning. They smiled. They convinced others. They carried on as if nothing had happened. Meanwhile, you are left carrying the weight of pain and betrayal. But exposure does not happen on human timing. It happens on divine timing. There is a scripture that says, "For nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest, nor is anything secret that will not be known and come to light." Darkness cannot hide forever in a world designed for light. What was done in secret begins to surface in unexpected ways. People begin to notice inconsistencies. The mask begins to slip. Their patterns repeat with others. And slowly, without your intervention, their truth reveals itself. You did not need to defend yourself because your character was already speaking. You did not need to prove your innocence because your spirit was aligned with truth. While they were investing energy into maintaining a false image, you were investing energy into healing. Healing is not loud. Healing is quiet. It happens when you choose peace over proving yourself. It happens when you release the need to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding you. This is where your power returned. Because the moment you stopped trying to convince them, you started convincing yourself. You started remembering who you were before their projections tried to redefine you. You started reconnecting with your inner voice buried under their manipulation. And that voice reminded you of something essential. Your worth was never determined by their perception. Your truth was never dependent on their acknowledgement. This is why exposure feels different when it happens. It does not come with shouting. It does not come with revenge. It comes with clarity. People begin to see what you saw. They begin to feel what you felt. Not because you explained it, but because truth reveals itself without force. This is divine vindication. Vindication is not about humiliating them. It is about restoring you. It is about removing the weight of false accusations that were never yours to carry. There may have been nights when you questioned yourself. Nights when you wondered if you should have spoken louder or defended yourself more aggressively. But now you see why you were guided to remain still. Your stillness protected your integrity. When you refused to engage in chaos, you preserve your clarity. They expected you to chase their approval. They expected you to remain trapped in their emotional games. They expected you to remain accessible to their manipulation. But instead, you chose distance. You chose peace. You chose yourself. And that choice changed everything. Because when you removed your energy, their illusion lost its fuel. When you withdrew your presence, their control weakened. When you stopped participating, their influence began to collapse. This is why exposure often happens after separation. Your absence creates space for truth. Without you absorbing their projections, those projections begin to reflect back onto them. This is not punishment. This is consequence. You are not responsible for their exposure. They are. Exposure is simply the outcome of sustained deception meeting sustained truth. You may notice that you no longer feel the same urgency to explain yourself. This is growth. This is emotional freedom. Freedom means trusting that truth does not require constant defense. Freedom means trusting that your life will speak for you. As you continue healing, you may notice something else. Their opinions lose their power. Their absence becomes peaceful instead of painful. This is transformation. You are no longer the version of yourself that needed their validation. You are no longer the version of yourself that tolerated their disrespect. You are no longer the version of yourself that doubted your inner knowing. You have returned to yourself. And when you return to yourself, everything changes. Your energy shifts. Your boundaries strengthen. Your presence becomes grounded. This is why people who tried to diminish you often become uncomfortable with your growth. Your healing reminds them of what they tried to suppress. Your peace reflects what they could not control. But their discomfort is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to continue honoring your truth, to continue protecting your peace, to continue trusting that what is real does not need to force recognition. God did not need your help to expose them. He needed your willingness to release the battle. And you did. You chose silence when chaos invited you to react. You chose peace when pain invited you to retaliate. You chose healing when hurt invited you to harden. These choices were not signs of weakness. They were signs of strength. Because true strength is not found in proving yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. True strength is found in walking away and allowing truth to reveal itself naturally. Now you stand in a different place. A place of clarity. A place of peace. A place of freedom. You understand now that exposure was never your job. Your job was to heal. Your job was to protect your spirit. Your job was to remember your worth. And you did. If this message resonated with you, let it serve as confirmation that you were never alone. Truth has always been working on your behalf. Continue choosing peace. Continue choosing yourself. Continue trusting the path that led you into clarity. Welcome to Narcissism Freedom. If this message brought you clarity and strength, like this video, share it with someone who needs this reminder, and subscribe to Narcissism Freedom for more messages that support your healing and spiritual growth. Your freedom is already unfolding.